Well, a rough day for the Tigers organization on and off the field. We'll talk about that and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Thursday, June 12th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Welcome in. Welcome all, everybody. Happy Thursday here. Thursday the 12th, so Friday the 13th is around the corner. There you go. Very fitting for today's episode, I guess, even though it's definitely not Friday the 13th today. Tigers lose 10-1 on the field, and their top pitching prospect is now going to be out for the foreseeable future as Jackson Jobe, it was announced, will receive Tommy John surgery here pretty soon, making him out for at least the next year, and that would be like an unbelievably quick recovery. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but that was kind of my first thought. 10-1 and Jobe going under the knife all in one day is it's a rough 24-hour stretch for the organization there. They fall to 44-25, still, a fantastic season, et cetera, et cetera. The sky's not falling, as I say, but I don't really have too many other first thoughts. Just Wednesday sucked for the Tigers. Wednesday absolutely sucked. So we'll start with what went wrong, and this is obviously in the ball game. We'll talk about Jobe at the end of the show. You can kind of start with the eighth inning. Gave up 7 runs in the bottom of the eighth inning, and what ended up being a 9-run ball game. So it was a 2-run game going into the bottom of the eighth, right? How quickly we forget. You look at the final box score, you think this was complete and utter domination. This was a 2-run game with an inning and a half left. It ended up being a 10-1 final. We'll start with Bo Brisky here because I think that's probably what everyone is going to and wants to focus on. He's got an ERA of 6.55 now. Everything in this outing was over the heart of the plate. It was kind of staggering at some point how consistently anything he threw with velocity just ended up being over the heart of the plate, and kind of almost some of them, the fastballs even moved into the barrel, like they were helping the hitter. Obviously not intentionally, but just does not have his A-plus stuff right now, and hasn't, obviously, for a majority of the season. I think we're approaching a point, or I would imagine a lot of you listening are probably already at this point, where he needs to get sent down. And I think that the organization, you kind of have to be close to that point, if not there already. He has options left. He has minor league options left. I want to say multiple even, but at least one. Nothing has been working for him. No adjustment that he has made has benefited him so far at this level. He's got an ERA over 6.5. You have to get him right, though. This is not someone that you just completely give up on. Right. And that's, I think, the important thing to remember as fans when we watch someone, that played in a significant role down the stretch for the Tigers a year ago. It's important to remember that as he struggles this year. This is still a young guy with, again, multiple minor league options left, and was one of, if not just straight up the best relievers on the team. I guess Tyler Holton existed last year, but he's struggled this year too. Right? Like, this is not a guy you just completely just like punt and you're like, okay, well, this is over, whatever. He's never going to be good again. He was closing games in the playoffs for the Detroit Tigers. He was getting the final out in games, in like 1-2 run games, right, for the Tigers in the postseason a year ago. You have a ton of team control left. I think it's still 3 or 4 years even. But at the same time, you can't afford an automatic, just like bullpen implosion either. And that's why Kenta Maeda got cut. That's why they've made these bullpen decisions. And I think Bo Brisky is, again, either close to or already at the point where you're going to have to make a decision about him and send him somewhere to make some adjustments, because you really are trying to get as big of a lead as possible in the division, because it's still the first half of the year. You can't really afford to have a guy that's going to turn a 2-run ball game into a 9-run ball game. So, but we talk about Bo Brisky and his struggles. It certainly was not just Bo Brisky when talking about the struggles from the bullpen. I feel like this light over here is just really hot. This light is just bright as all heck. I'm going to start sweating here. Hannafy, 1 inning, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. He's got a 3.31 ERA now on the season. I know I've gone to bat, no pun intended, a lot for Hannafy this season and kind of defended him quite a bit. I won't be doing that in this one. I think this was just a rough outing. There's really no other way around it. I think this was an instance in which the lack of swing and miss that he possesses kind of reared its head, and not that he never really gets a ton of swing and miss. Like, he's always going to be a ground ball first guy, no matter the situation. But I think that should, on paper, prevent him from being used in every situation, because there are some situations where you just need a swing and miss. And I think that so far this season, he has been used in just about every fathomable situation. It wouldn't shock me if he was like comfortably the most used reliever on the team so far. I feel like every single game, this guy's out there in the 5th or 6th inning. So something to keep an eye out for there. I still think he has value. He still reminds me of like younger Jason Foley. I still think there's a lot to like in this arm and what he can provide the bullpen. I also think that in a 2-run ball game in the 8th inning, in a perfect world, you're not using him there. But I do understand, they gassed through Vest and Canely and whatnot in the previous nights, and you were losing and et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see kind of what happens. The trade deadline was a big talk in the fan base on Wednesday. I'm sure that pretty much everybody can agree that they need a high leverage swing and miss relief pitcher to add to this bullpen in the middle of the season. Tyler Holton also did not do very well in this one. Better than the previous 2 names mentioned, but still not a great outing. 1 1/3, 3 hits, 1 earned run, no walk, 1 strikeout. His ERA is now 4.35. This one's pretty simple too. He also could not miss bats for anything in this ballgame. I think he had 1 whiff total in the entire outing. And like a couple of bloop hits, those are bad luck, right? Like, you're not going to, like dog on the pitcher too much for those like bloopy singles. But like at the same time, I think it highlights the lack of swing and miss that this bullpen possesses or doesn't possess. Well, the lack that it does possess, the swing and miss that it doesn't possess so far this season. Let's talk about the offense. We can talk about the pitching all we want. At the end of the day, you're not going to win too many games scoring 1 run with just 5 hits. We will talk about that and more right after this. First, though, got to tell you all about our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. The Pacers go up 2-1 in the NBA Finals on Wednesday night. Every single night is delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. They're calling. They're calling. The certain players the moment. Not sure that's a nickname that's going to catch on, but whether it's a game-winning shot for the moment or a breakout player, like Halliburton, just what a nickname. But there's never been a better time to get in on the action than right now. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. A lot of fun players to look at in the NBA Finals. A lot of talent, as it should be, in the finals. And I know that a lot of people are talking about, oh, like small market. This is great basketball. This is great hoops, and you can get in on all this action with FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, it's also the perfect time to sign up because you can head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If that bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping the series finale against the O's, hopefully bringing home a series victory. We'll preview that game at the very end of the show. For now, though, talking about this 10-1 loss here in Game 2 of this series. Talked about the bullpen really struggling mightily. Let's talk about the offense. Really, at the end of the day, you were diced by Zach Eflin. Like, that's really what it came down to. And I like, if you're looking for any sort of like, oh, to be fair, or, you know, some sort of silver lining, like, he has been maybe their only decent starting pitcher consistently throughout the year. He had a couple of blow up outings, but like, he's 6-2 with an ERA of 4.08. You know, like he's having a solid-ish year. Look, in this outing specifically, and I know if you listen to the broadcast, you're probably tired of people like saying this because you're like, why can't you just hit, 93 or 92 mile an hour fastballs? He mixed his pitches incredibly well, and he did it, off rip. This is a guy that was offering, I want to say Dan Petrie at one point said he was throwing 6 different pitches. I noticed at least 5. Like he has a lot of really good pitchers. There's a reason that he's been around for as long as he has, and there's a reason that he's still a decent, solid pitcher. Now, does that justify 5 hits and 1 run? No. Pretty poor execution of the game plan from the Tigers. I really don't think the amount of pitches he has is like a proper excuse for this performance. They did not make him work at all, man. They just up there hacking. Right. He almost went 7 innings, and he got pulled because of situation, not because of fatigue or because of a high pitch count. His pitch count was still in the 80s when he got pulled. I think Benetti said when he was through 6, it was like, this guy might go complete game. Just did not make him work whatsoever. And that's off brand. So like, it's not the end of the world. It's not something that I'm like super concerned about. This team has been a lot better than I thought they were going to be in a lot of aspects, I guess, offensively. But one of those is how much they have made a lot of starting pitchers work. They have, especially in that first, month and a half of the season, they were making a lot of pitchers, knocking a lot of starters out of games early. And I think that lately the offense has obviously taken a dip. Some people are really concerned about that. I get that. I think going back to just the point where, okay, if we can just get to the bullpen as early as possible, that's kind of the name of the game on some nights. And with Baltimore, they have a lot of really good relievers in the back end of their pen. Maybe not the best numbers, but guys that have incredible stuff. And you don't want to be in a close game with them. So, late in a close game with them for that reason. So, just a game where you really needed to attack them and kind of tag them early, and they weren't able to do that. Individually, Parker Meadows 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. His season quote unquote numbers don't look very good, obviously, after this one. I am just the least bit worried about this. He didn't even have a spring training. Like, his rehab assignment, which is against minor league pitching, maybe not even good minor league pitching, was like his spring training, quote unquote, and it didn't last very long either. He's still like getting back into the flow and everything. I'm so far from worried about Parker Meadows. And even if he never hits a baseball ever again, just put him in 9, hit him 9 and he'd still be incredibly valuable in center field. And if he does get on the base paths ever, in that regard as well. So like, Again, I know you look at the numbers. Maybe some people are reactionary to that because they do look, 161 average, 536 OPS. He got a hit, a good day in his first game back, and then really hasn't done a whole lot since. I am not worried at all. I think he will hit. He will be fine. He proved that he can make adjustments midseason last year. I think he'll do it again this year. Just got to get back into the full swing of things. Kerry Carpenter goes 0 for 4 with a strikeout in this ball game. Just doesn't have the thump that I think we've been used to in his major league career up to this point. And because he's had so many injuries, that's not as many games as you would maybe think. But his OPS is 791. Is that bad? Very far from. Okay. I'm not trying to make it sound like Kerry Carpenter is a problem or deserves a ton of criticism. I'm just saying that I think that especially over the last 3 or 4 weeks, he has been much more, going to hit a hard hit single to the right side, maybe get past the second baseman, going to bury the ball in the ground a lot of strikeouts. You just throw the ball at his eyes. He swings at pretty much all of them. There are still plenty of things to work on. Now, also historically, every single time I've ever, criticized Kerry Carpenter's offense, he has immediately gone on an absolute tear. So I'm hoping that is the case here, and we can just laugh about how wrong I am about Carpenter for the 15th time in his career, and he can go on a hot streak. Again, I promise I'm not trying to make it sound like this dude, very far from our offensive problems, is Kerry Carpenter. Not the point I'm trying to get across. Just there are adjustments to be made, and I think lately, especially, you're kind of seeing a lack of that fear bat that he has been for most of his major league career when he's been on the field. Jake Rogers goes 0 for, he's hitting 132 with a 417 OPS, man. Just brutal. And I come on here and talk about how great he is defensively and how much of a solid game caller he is. That I still believe that. I think that's all still true. But there is a point where your offense is so brutal that there's just not room for consistent playing time. There's no one else in the organization to replace him. I know everybody loves Tomas Nido. Again, he hit well for a small sample size. He has a career major league OPS in the 500s, and he's 30. He is not the answer. I assure you, long term at least. Great depth to have. No disrespect, but I think we get carried away sometimes. I think that, if this is something you want to address at the trade deadline or address in the offseason, we can get there. I still want to see some more not more at bats in the sense of I think he'll turn it around and be a great hitter. But maybe if we can just get to him being a 615 OPS kind of hitter, you can justify him being a backup catcher at the major league level. I'm not asking for the world here. We're just asking for salvageable offense, some redeeming qualities offensively to make it worth him playing once a series to get Dingler off his legs. But, Dingler's going to be up for all-star consideration. He's had a fantastic season and he deserves it. And that's why he even pinch hit and played the second half of this ballgame. He's going to get a majority of the starts behind the dish, and he should. He should. Jahmai Jones. Only one at bat, but it was a strikeout. The thing I want to point out here is, I guess, similar to the Tomas Nido thing, where it's if you watch that at bat, he got 4 straight fastballs, and 3 of them were very hittable and kind of over the heart of the plate. It wasn't 105 miles an hour. I just kicked the heck out of my desk. Sorry if it looked like I had an earthquake there. It wasn't like he was getting, 102 blown by him. This is 94, 95. This is, around an average major league fastball at this point for certainly relievers, if not starters. One was out of the zone, and he took it to his credit, but 4 fastballs up and just completely blown by all of them. So it's been a great story. I hope he turns it around. I hope he does hit left-handed pitching well. That's kind of why he's here, right? What's the point of sending down Andy Ibanez even if Jahmai Jones isn't going to hit? I hope he does. But it's also important to remember, again, with the Nido thing, there's a reason that these guys Jahmai Jones turns 28 in a couple of months, and he's been in the minor leagues for pretty much his entire professional career. Not all of, he's had a couple of major league stints and a couple of them decently, lengthy, but there's a reason that he consistently gets minor league contracts too. And I think that was kind of exposed in that at bat. So hopefully, again, an adjustment can be made. Hopefully he's fine and ends up being that kind of left-handed pitcher platoon option that we need. But I think that was pretty telling in this outing how the pitching attacked him. I think was just important to note. Let's talk about what went right. Not a whole lot in this game, obviously, and then we'll talk Jackson Jobe. We'll do that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last possible minute to head to a ball game with friends and family? Well, maybe it's game day and you've suddenly realized you want to be in the stands. The Tigers are almost 20 games over 500. It's a great time to go watch some Tigers baseball at Comerica Park, and that's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or invite bigger groups to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. So what went right in this game? Colt Keith had a really nice hit in this one. The reason he's on there, aside from being the only RBI in the game, is it was just really nice to see him pull and lift a pitch. I mean, this dude has just been slapping singles the opposite way for so much of this season. But it's just nice to see him pull and smoke a baseball to right field. I haven't looked at the Savant thing and seen if that's a home run in certain parks. I know it's a shorter wall in right field, but it is a taller wall as well. So maybe that's a home run in a couple parks. The ball was smoked. And it was just nice to see. It was a bad pitch. I mean, that's like a hanging slider. Literally could not have been more of a hanging slider down the middle, opposite platoon, etc. I mean, that is really not a good pitch, but I'm glad that he was able to do damage on it. So thought that was worth bringing up. And then Casey Mize, 5 1/3, 8 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, the 1 home run against. His ERA is now 2.95 on the year. This is easily his best outing since coming back off the injured list. He missed over the plate still a lot, which is frustrating. I'm sure it is for him as well, but he also made some really great pitches and buckled down when he needed to. And I think that's worth something, in the same breath. The splitter was absolutely amazing when it was located, decently. He left quite a few still up in the zone. But the thing with his splitter is at its best, which is, I think, what we saw in this game, it's so good that he can even miss with it in the zone. And it still gets swing and miss and still gets strikes. So that's important. The stuff was great. I know the final line maybe isn't the sexiest thing in the world. And you're like, wow, really? That went right? Like, I if you disagree, that's fine. I certainly don't think this is, on the side of things that went wrong. The command was still spotty. I still completely agree with that. But I think weirdly, spotty command is an improvement over non-existent, which is where it was his last 2 outings where he was just spraying the ball all over the place. I think that this outing does a lot of good to maybe, put himself and others at ease. This was far from perfect, but I think you watch this and you go, okay, like he'll get back to where he was. He's just kind of slowly kind of building back up there. Stuff. The only other thing game related I have is just like Gregory Soto pitched. That was kind of, old friend alert. If you all have followed me for a long time, you know that I absolutely adored Gregory Soto while he was here, to the frustration of many, because I know a lot of fans did not feel the same way. But let's get to the big conversation off the field. Jackson Jobe will officially have surgery, Tommy John surgery, in his throwing arm, obviously. This absolutely blows. Like, there's really no other way to put it. This is awful and devastating news for him. And I know for the fan base, this really sucks. This was a guy that everybody was really excited about. You kind of felt like in some of his last few outings, he was starting to maybe turn that corner and learn, as Dan Petrie always puts it, like learn how to pitch instead of throw. Like you really felt like he was taking those strides. And I thought he looked so much better in his last few outings than he did at the start of the year. And yeah, now it's Tommy John. So I think I'm going to get super, super like not what's the opposite of optimistic, pessimistic. I don't think we see him next year either. And I know that like sucks to hear, but I'm not gonna. There's one thing I'm not gonna do. It's like sugarcoat, stuff on this show or lie to you. And I hope I'm wrong. I am notoriously not a doctor. Okay, I not even close. I I want to make that abundantly clear. Okay, I've seen nothing that makes me like super pessimistic about it. But whenever people get Tommy John in the middle of a season, you got to think, okay, best case scenario, he's back to like maybe some sort of pitching again in 12 months. Okay. That's June of next year, June, July of next year. Okay. Then you're talking about slowly working that back up. Then you're talking about a rehab process where he's back down in the minor leagues and has to work his way back up. Okay, what? The Tigers make the postseason next year. He's back to be like a reliever in October. I guess maybe. But like he's also 22. He'll be 23 next season. I'd imagine they'll play it safe with a guy that was, going into this year, arguably the number one pitching prospect in all of baseball. You saw the velocity dip last outing. We talked about it. I didn't think much of it. Certainly didn't think that it was going to lead to this. Just sucks. And I think it sucks for development, right? Like because he's so young, you wanted him to get that major league experience at just 22 years old. He can work through those frustrations early and then, next year kind of splash onto the scene, or maybe even in the second half of this year, like splash onto the scene and be that prince that was promised. But now he's, certainly done for the rest of this year. Done for a lot of next year, if not all of next year. Even if he does get back next year, then you're just kind of rehashing like we're starting from where we did kind of on opening day of this season. Whenever he comes back next year, and yeah, man, we've seen Tommy John's middle of the season so many times, and the odds of them, coming back in what are they going to make him come back for the last month of the season next year? I guess maybe. But hopefully the Tigers are going to be trying to win ball games. I'm not sure you want to, like baby him back up to, I don't know, just talking in circles at this point. He'll be back and he'll be incredible. And like, that's the thing. He's so young. This is almost like a selfish thing of like, this just sucks that we have to wait. Like you just kind of have to wait for him to get back, I guess, just period. But you're now waiting longer to see him at his peak and see what everybody has been so excited about. Yeah. If there is a silver lining, it's the fact that you look around the game of baseball and you look around pitchers. I don't want to say it's like a foregone conclusion, but if this is something that is just going to be a part of a pitcher's lifespan these days, and like almost every pitcher, especially starters that throw high velo, have this happen to them, almost all of them. At least it happened early on. You can get it out of the way and just, all eyes ahead when he's healthy and ready to come back. I guess that's me just trying to make the best of a really bad situation. This obviously sucks. When talking about the rotation going forward, you're hoping, I guess, that Alex Cobb, who you signed for $15 million, can, not look like he's in pain every time he throws a baseball, which is kind of what it looked like his last outing. His next rehab outing will be in AAA, so I'm assuming that they have seen at least enough to move him up. He was pitching in West Michigan before, so we'll see how he looks. And like again, I know I've really, a lot of people have been super critical of this signing and questioned it. The fact of the matter is, when Cobb has been healthy, he's been really good for the last couple of seasons. He just hasn't been healthy very often. So if you can get him back to form and get him back in the rotation and have him like feeling good and not in pain or injured, then that's great. You're going to get a nice sinker ball, around a 3 ERA guy is what he's been the last couple of years. But I think that's a pretty big if at the present moment. Sawyer Gipson-Long certainly will have more of an opportunity as well now going forward. He looks really solid in his last outing, so that's good. This is where an instance where it's good to have the pitching depth that the Tigers have, and that's something that was a strength obviously going into the year and is now proving to be a necessity, not just a luxury. Cater Montero, I know that people have frustration with him, but that's going to be a guy that they're going to need to lean on going forward as well. In terms of this series, this was a disaster. Wednesday sucked in every single way, shape, and form. But you got Tarek Skubal against Dean Kremer in Game 3. Go win a series, okay? Dean Kremer is, no disrespect, okay? He has more talent in his pinky that, in terms of on a baseball field than I do in my entire body or ever have. As a major league pitcher, this dude does not get swing and miss. He does not strike people out, but he also doesn't get a high volume of ground balls. It's just weak contact and a lot of flyouts. Go tee off, okay? Go give Tarek Skubal some run support. Go hit the ball hard. Go get extra base hits. Go lift the ball in the air. And win a series against the Baltimore Orioles that are 12 games under 500 even after this, okay? And we can just look back at this outing as like a dark day for the organization. It sucked, but you still walked out of Baltimore with a series win. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping this series finale and the series as a whole. Peace and love. Going to therapy is dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.